Thank you for coming back from our replay reviews. My name is Leah.
And my name is Kathy.
We are two friends who are here to replay, review, and analyze your favorite video games. And since Kathy has never seen the games before, it helps me view them through her fresh eyes, almost like I'm discovering them again for the first time.
We hope it'll be a similar experience for you.
Anything you want to say before we get started?
I mean, I have a lot of thoughts. I don't know if I want to get into it quite yet. If I start, I won't know how to stop.
Let's start with some burning questions then, because I think they'll be pretty short. My only burning question was from episode 3, when the train, as John, we had to go stop the train before it crossed the bridge, and then the bridge blew up, and we're like, who blew up the bridge? So I went back and rewatched that. What we know is there are no supplies on the train, and we know that DeSanta asked John to stop the train after the rebels steal it before it crosses the bridge. If the rebels stole it, they either think there's supplies on it, so they wouldn't want to blow it up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or they're mad at the army because there's no supplies and they're just blowing it up out of spite. Which is kind of the only answer I have, because I don't think that the army would explode it, because why would they? DeSanta wouldn't need to ask him to stop it before it crosses the bridge, because he would know it's never going to cross the bridge. So I don't know. I think it must have been the rebels, but I don't know.
They don't care if they lose weapons or equipment over it. If I die, I'm taking you with me kind of situation, so might as well we both don't have that.
Still no solid answer, but that's my solution.
My burning question ties into this entire conversation about at what point do you think he gets redeemed? Like, what is redemption? Like, where does it start? Where does it stop? And that kind of ties along with the question of why Red Dead Redemption? Why is this name called Redemption? Like, Redemption I get, but Red Dead? What does that mean?
I think you're going to be a little disappointed.
Oh.
Just because there was an older game called Red Dead Revolver. I've not played it. It's not, I don't think, really directly tied to the rest of the games, but that's where they pulled Red Dead from.
Oh, okay. Well,
should we just put the burning questions to bed then?
Yeah.
Until we get to your bigger one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Ending reactions, which just at this point, immediate reactions. So for this one, since I've obviously seen it a few times, I'm more going to build off of what your immediate reactions were.
I felt so caught off guard because I thought John was going to be the main character in Game 2. I knew there was a Game 2. I thought he was going to continue. So when he dies, I was like, but what about Game 2? My next reaction was, I can't believe after all that running around, just trying to seek redemption, that's how it ends. Maybe the redemption part is more of an internal thing that John and Abigail, from their point of view, he was redeemed. That's good. But I have mixed feelings because the takeaway message I'm sensing is that you can only get redemption if you die. And there's a lot of issues with that. I get John needing to die is great for the plot. It's great for the reactions and the emotions in this game. But I don't know what kind of message that sends.
I think I mentioned it at the end of part 5, but it is a notorious ending. I think it's one of the only ones that so ruthlessly kills off its main character. So I understand where you're coming from. And this is why I wanted to do immediate reactions and then afterthoughts after we cover our other topics, because this game is a lot deeper than it seems immediately. So I mean, should we just build that into our second topic, which is John's death?
Yeah.
And you had a question and I had a question. Do you want to do your question first?
Yes. So topic 2 is John's death, and my question is, was it necessary? And how would the plot have changed if he lived? I honestly think it depends on what the message this game is trying to send. So I think if the game was about you can never redeem yourself from a path of crime, or if the theme was you can only redeem yourself through death, then of course he needed to die. That way John has that full circle of he did wrong, he redeemed himself, and he needed to die for it. But if there is a chance for redemption without needing death, then no, they shouldn't have killed John. What the plot would have been afterward would be like, okay, he lives a full life. It would have been a really nice, sweet ending just to end the game.
I get it. I think it's less that you have to die and more that you're willing to die. It sort of just signifies you kind of have to admit what you did and accept punishment for it. Do I 100% agree with the way that it happened? No. But it leads me into my John's death question, which is, does he know the only freedom for his family is his death? And that's why my answer to your question, was his death necessary, is yes. I don't know if I said that structurally sound, but
It makes sense what you're saying. I have some opinions about it, but let's hear your
yeah. I do believe that John comes to this realization that his death is sort of the only way for his family to be free. I do think that he had thoughts in the back of his head that he's just sort of choosing to ignore. And so when the army arrives, he finally has to address these thoughts. And he comes to the full realization that they won't quit until they have John. So, yes, I firmly say that John's death is necessary because it proves that he has completed his redemption arc. He saved his family the only way he can by sacrificing himself to the government to ensure they never come back, shooting at his family, never kidnap them again. And devil's advocate time, because I know you might ask this, but yeah, he could have left out the back of the barn, right? And ran away with them, or even ran away on their own to, stay separate, try to keep them safe that way. But I don't think that they ever would have been safe with him alive at all. From what we've seen and heard in this game, Ross would use them to get to John, and by instead staying and facing his death, he ensures freedom for his family. His redemption is in his death. So is Abigail's, thanks to his sacrifice. And the line that ties this all together for me is when he says, "People don't forget, nothing gets forgiven." So I think he knew the whole time, but he was just keeping it together for the sake of his family.
I like that line, but then a quick question to answer is that from the moment John gets back to his ranch, do you think he was always waiting for the other shoe to drop that he was going to die?
Yeah, I think he is, but it's like he's pushing it to the back of his mind.
Okay.
So he's choosing to ignore it.
When I was first working on this question and thinking through it, my thought was that up until the point where Uncle dies, I think John knew that he may have like fully redeemed himself and he's safe because he continues to live there with Jack and Abigail and Uncle. And my opinion is that if I was always waiting for the other shoe to drop, I'd rather make it difficult for them to track me down and always be slightly in the running. I would have just picked up my family and moved. I wouldn't stay at that ranch. They knew where he lived. The other thing is, Abigail and Jack aren't guaranteed to stay alive. They could have killed John and then immediately went to kill Abigail and Jack, and John wouldn't have been able to do anything about it. So by staying there, John thought he was safe. I think it's at the moment when Uncle dies that he realizes, okay, I can't run from fate anymore. They're going to kill me.
The one thing that we know he wants, right, is a normal life for Jack especially, but for his family. And so moving them around sort of defeats that. Mm-hmm. You're sort of admitting defeat to that dream. And he also knows that they chased people all the way into Mexico. So I think he knows running away is not going to be a permanent solution. So he'd rather just have as much time as he can giving his family a normal life.
I could see that. But a part of me wishes that he took matters in his own hand instead of waiting for the other shoe to drop.
That's why his character is so tragic, because he's trying to change, but maybe if he didn't change, he would have more of a fighting chance, but then you're not changing. So it's kind of, catch-22, and that's why it's so tragic.
It's really similar to the freedom part, but I guess what point do you think that John fully redeems himself? Is it as soon as the moment that he kills Dutch and he's kind of like released by Ross, or do you think it's the moment when he earns his freedom that his redemption arc is finally completed?
I think it's when he accepts his fate, when he doesn't run away at the barn and decides to face them instead. It angers a lot of people. It angered me the first time because I'm like, just run away, John, please. And I still hate it, but I love it at the same time because if he ran away or if he did anything to try to stop them, that's him sliding back into the outlaw life. And so him
Yeah.
rejecting that, even at the cost of his own life, is his redemption.
For me, it's the moment when he gets back home, in a way, because that's when he starts his false sense of hope that he's going to make it. There's nothing more I can do. There's nothing more I can fully redeem himself, because I still don't feel like redemption and freedom is in the fact that he dies. It's still a bit murky for me.
And I don't even think freedom comes into the equation. At least for him. It's freedom for his family, I guess.
Why does he think that they're going to uphold their promise of not harming, or their morals of not harming his wife and child? I would be worried that both Abigail and Jack are going to die too with me.
Ross is after medals and accolades, and John's going to get him that. Is killing a wife and child going to get them that? Probably not. I don't necessarily think that Ross kills for the enjoyment of killing. I think he kills when there's an excuse to kill. And I don't think that he's being given an excuse to kill Abigail and Jack, but I don't think he'd care if they got caught in the crossfire either.
Yeah. I guess that's all I had for topic 2.
Big topic here for number 3. Strange man theories.
There's a lot going on. I have a lot of questions like, how does he know so much about John? Why doesn't he reveal who he is? How does he not die? How is he commuting from place to place? Why is he dressed like that? There's a lot of questions. But overall, I have 2 theories. First, and this is one where I'm more leaning towards this idea of the strange man being a Grim Reaper. First interaction, he says he wished he knew more about life, and maybe he only wished he knew more about life as he only knows about the afterlife and death. In the last interaction that we have with the strange man, he also mentions he's like an accountant in a way, and I thought of this as like the Grim Reaper having a lot of cases, like accounts. The way I see it is that when he gives John a choice, this is going to impact what happens to John in the afterlife. And it makes sense why when John shoots at him, he doesn't die. So that's my first theory. So I don't know if you want to react to it before I go into my second theory.
No. We'll have some crossover.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And then my second theory is that it is part of John's subconscious and it's his imagination. So the strange man knows so much about John, and it's because he is John. He's a part of John's imagination, and this stems from so much PTSD. Like the first interaction where he talks about, do you remember this person? And John's like, no. And the fact that the girl's eyeball pops out, that's pretty gruesome. And so it's John's PTSD that's probably pushing that memory into something he can't remember. But the strange man knows because he is John. And then the next part too is that in the second interaction, the strange man says he has a boy. And maybe that's Jack, that John has a boy too. And that's because they're the same person. And he also doesn't die because he is John's imagination, is his subconscious speaking. So he can't die.
The first encounter, as John's walking up, we hear him saying in the distance, "Oh, I've been waiting for you." So this indicates he is specifically seeking out John. This is not a chance encounter. And he also knows his name before he even sees John. So he knows who he is just based on sensing it. I don't know. And then you talked about the Heidi McCourt exchange. And I said when he says, "Do you remember Heidi McCourt's face?" He's challenging John to remember his darker past because John just said, "I'm pretty good at remembering faces." So he's like, "Are you? Well, do you remember this one?" This is the first time that I've considered, what if he's not being honest when he says not really? Does he really not remember who she is, or is he frightened of what this man would or could do if he admits the truth that he does remember? Because that would implicate him, right? And we don't know who this guy is. He could be some federal agent trying to get to John because he obviously knows a lot about John and the gang.
Yeah, maybe that's actually pretty good. Maybe John is lying.
And the biggest part is I don't think that he'd forget that, you know?
I would.
Based on what we know about him, right?
But it could
Who
be his
would?
PTSD just pushing it to the back of his mind.
John says, "What do you think I am?" He says, "I know what you are, John." So he knows what he is, but I think he's giving him tests to determine who he is. if we jump ahead to the second encounter just for a second, when John walks away from that encounter, he says, "Hurry up, John, or are you not the man I thought you were?" So it seems like he is still trying to determine maybe John's morality. I think he's likely doing this, giving John these tests, because he knows that John had bad guidance growing up. And that ties into him saying, "I wish I'd known more about life." He knows John did bad things, but now he's trying to make up for them. So has enough good in him to warrant these tests / second chances to determine, is he good or is he bad? It leaves me feeling like the strange man could be an angel sent to test John, or the Grim Reaper, like you said. Basically, he would be trying to determine / account for which side John should fall on, due to him having two distinctly different lives. Okay, so we're on to the second meeting, and we're in Nuevo Paraiso. And in the first encounter, he was standing at the river looking to Mexico. He's planning out in this moment, where am I going to run into John next? So I think that this person can see the future. Okay, and then the line where he says, "I admire you, John. I hope my boy turns out just like you." This is the one that gives me the biggest pause on any of my theories. This line makes me wonder if he's a man from John's past, maybe like the spirit of a man from John's past. But I think, again, that John would recognize him. Another thing that makes me question, is it just like someone from his past, even if they're dead, and it's just a spirit, is when Jack finds Edgar Ross at the end of the game, and Ross says to Jack, "Do I know you?" That, to me, like, it could be a hint that, like, this guy could be someone from John's past that was impactful. It's a stretch, I think. But I also feel like the "do I know you" from Ross is sort of purposeful, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe the tie-in is that Ross saying, "Do I know you?" Because we know the strange man gives John tasks, right? You can do the good thing or the bad thing. So maybe this is just a reference to that, because Jack now has to decide, am I going to kill this man or let him live? So maybe that's what it is. I kind of think that's what it is.
That phrase is a pretty common phrase. At the same time, for the writers to have so many lines to choose from, but they specifically chose that line, it's too much of a coincidence.
And let me add that the stranger mission is titled "Do I Know You?" So it's not just something the strange man says, it's the whole like title of the encounters with him. And I don't necessarily think that Edgar is taking up the reins of the strange man or anything. I think it's more of just an Easter egg or a reference to the strange man, to highlight that now Jack is having to make a moral decision. But it's his knowledge of the proper authorities that he references when John says, "I'll let the appropriate authorities judge my morality." And the strange man says, "Yes, you will, and they shall." He seems to have knowledge of these authorities, and that kind of solidifies for me that this is not a currently living human or a ghost, but something more spiritual. Again, he also seems to be going ahead of John to meet him with a new task that he's prepared for him.
Hearing what you say makes me almost think that he is fate. Like the strange man determines what John's future is if he says, "Help the nuns." And if John doesn't do that, maybe it sets him up on a different path.
I'll tie more into that, so I'm not going to respond yet.
Okay.
But, so let's just go to the third meeting. So this is when John's like, "What are you doing here?" And he says, "My accounts, I'm an accountant." He's also indicates that he's been with John basically forever, because he says, "I know you from Mexico, I know you from back out west, I know you from all over." When John says, "Tell me your name or I won't be responsible for my actions," he responds, "Oh, but you will be responsible." This is a fine spot. He is standing at John's gravesite when he says this. And then the line that I think gets brought up a lot is when John says, "Damn you," and the strange man says, "Yes, many have." It just begs you to think of "God damn you," right? Which I get, and I don't necessarily think it's wrong, but it also feels kind of backwards, because you wouldn't say "God damn you" to God, like if God's doing the damning, right?
Unless he's not God, he's Hades. I guess I don't know what the equivalent of that is. Yeah, he's Hades.
And that's my next question is, so is he the devil? But then I think no, because I don't think that the devil would be wanting to give John opportunities to improve himself.
Unless he constantly wants John to do bad, then he's saying that mankind is evil.
Or it's a neutral party.
Yeah.
Someone between heaven and hell. The strange man has completed his account of John and knows his death will be occurring soon. He knows this spot will be his resting place. He gave John missions to balance the scale of time and action. Because John's time was cut short, he needed a fair shot to prove that he's changed before his death. And if this were the Grim Reaper, I don't see why he would be involving himself in John's morality, as he's supposed to be, according to the lore, more of a harvester of souls. And that's sort of where his responsibilities end. So that's where the Grim Reaper kind of falls off for me. My two main theories are kind of what you were saying of, it's something in between, basically. It's not something from heaven, not something from hell, but something that determines who John is. And because he started down a path of redemption, but they know it'll be cut short, they're giving him these opportunities to sort of prove it before time runs out. But there's a couple things that sort of tip the scale for me towards something more from heaven, more angel related. Well, first of all, just symbolism. There's 3 meetings. It's like the Holy Trinity, right? But then also, Sister Calderon may have given us the answer. That's the nun. When she says, "The Lord has brought you to me, so you could help me." I'm like, Did she tell us?
I thought so, but I also read that as like sisters would say that no matter what.
But he did send him to her. And we can surmise that he would know she would say that. Because he seems to know the future.
Yeah, I could see that. Don't know if I completely believe that, but I could see it being like the writing trying to be clever and saying that.
Yeah.
That's it.
Why does John shoot at him? Would he really want to kill this guy, or does he somehow know that he cannot be killed? Because it seems out of character for John to want to kill him.
That's what I was struggling with was I think John would only shoot at him if he knows he can't die and he's frustrated.
I agree.
So I think maybe deep down John knows who he is.
Or he knows at least that it's some spiritual being and not a flesh and blood person. Are we ready for topic 4? Basically, afterthoughts of the game. Have our general reactions or opinions changed? Are there any themes or characters we want to discuss?
The first question I have, though, more about character-wise, is Ross. Like, why didn't Ross just kill John after Dutch died? Why let him get a taste of freedom only to bring the army on him? Why spare him?
My simple answer, paperwork.
Oh.
Well, we don't know how long John has actually been back for, which is kind of the piece of the puzzle we're missing, because it just depends on how long you put off that mission for. But my continuity answer would be, yeah, paperwork. He had to take Dutch in, get all that squared away, get his medal for that, give an update on where John is, and then they say, all right, now it's time to go get John. I don't know how long that could take. We know bureaucracy is kind of slow. So maybe that's the simple explanation. But that's the only one that I got for you.
Okay.
Other than him just being cruel.
Yeah. My other question is, what happened to Fordham?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, maybe he just took, Ross's position after he retired. I don't know. I'm not sure if we ever hear. There's maybe a newspaper article that would tell us.
Okay. I just didn't know if there's some, like, DLC that talked about it. Are you searching it up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh. He can be killed in the final mission. I'm not sure. I might have shot him when John goes guns blazing out of the barn door. So he could die there, or...
Okay.
And then it says his fate is left unknown if he survives.
What do you think is a takeaway of the game? Like, I have 3 takeaways. 1 is there's no redemption. You can never right your wrongs. 2, you can try, but karma will find a way. Or 3, don't trust people with prosecuting authority.
My big section in terms of like themes of the game kind of goes into that.
Okay.
So
yes.
I'll respond.
Okay.
We'll see if my theme discussion sort of answers any of those questions for you. So we see examples of how the same actions done by different people make the actions either good or bad. In gameplay part 2, when he's talking with the marshal.
Mm-hmm.
They're debating about killing people and it being wrong, and then John says, unless it's court ordered, which then makes the killing acceptable. And then we also have the women that they save on that mission at Ridgewood Farm. They're expressing discontent with the system. And we have Ross admitting his tactics are unsavory, but he can do what he wants anyway because of his position. We also have the train conversation when I think it's Jenny, the younger woman, says, sometimes I find it impossible to make the distinction between a loving act and a hateful one. I mean, they often seem to be the same thing. So I think with that quote being so near to the start of the game, it's sort of setting that question up for us. It's expressing that there can be little difference between law and outlaw. So my big question is John right when he says there's a difference between killing and murder? On a moral level, I think yes. And then within the government from this game, I also think yes. Basically, when they kill, it's justice. When anyone else kills, it's murder. In some cases, it's very accurate. You know, Javier, Bill, Dutch, they all get what they deserve, in my opinion. But the government sees very little distinction between them and John, a man who's actually trying to change.
I like that because kind of like how do I translate this? So, like, beauty is in the eye of the beholder kind of situation. And if you're not in that justice system, then you're a murderer. Anything you do,
Then you're an outlaw. You're
Yeah.
either in the law or you're out of the law.
Yeah, exactly.
But it can be the same thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that answered all your questions.
Yeah, I think which summarizes to me the theme is you can be a good guy doing bad things.
Mm-hmm. I guess the way I would say it is people do good things and people do bad things, and they're everywhere.
So, I guess maybe I'll go into doing more of a breakdown of John's character then, now that we're kind of talking about that. And I struggled with this a bit. My opinion is that we could have done a better job about John's character arc. That I wanted to see more of when we talk about he may have been a good guy doing bad things. I wanted to see that example of John doing that in his role as a gang member when he was around Dutch and Bill. I wanted to know more about what he was like. It's really hard to do because I gotta tie it back to Yakuza with Nishiki's thing. We see him, the good of him. We see what pushes him into doing bad, and we see him redeeming himself. We see that full line. Here, I feel like we just get thrown into John, and they're telling us John's a good guy. He's trying to redeem himself. But I don't want you to tell me that he's a good guy. I want to see that he's a good guy and what he's redeeming himself from.
And the unique thing about his character is that he was brought into the gang as a child, and we don't really know exactly what he was exposed to. And that's what makes it interesting about his redemption is, yeah, he did bad things, but at what point is that nature versus nurture? Because he was a child when he joined.
Well, with that, I only have one more comment about just the overall afterthoughts about this game. And this is, I don't know if this is controversial, but I didn't really like the pacing of this game. We spent so much time in Mexico going in circles, helping like the rebels, Reyes, and DeSanta. By the time we get to capturing Bill, and that is the whole purpose of the game in the beginning, all we wanted to do was capture Bill. It just was so anticlimactic. Like, okay, great. We did all that just for 3 seconds with Bill. I wanted some like flashback scenes with John and Bill, that angst between those two. Like, why is Luisa getting more screen time than Bill, Dutch, and Escuela combined together?
Yeah, this is definitely a game that plays better if you do the side content. Because there's a lot more side content in the US side than in the Mexico side. So if you're just blazing through it like we did, it does feel really imbalanced, and it does feel like it takes way too long to get to Bill and Javier. Do I still love the game? Absolutely. Still have a great time playing it, but it has issues, you know, of course. I want to talk about Jack.
Oh, okay.
This entire game, we hear references to Jack before we meet him, about his life, the childhood he had. We know John and Abigail have been trying for years to right the ship and give him a normal life. So they may be criminals, but they were trying to reform for the sake of their son. so that he could be someone else. In the end, though, do the government's actions turn Jack into what John was, the very thing that the government is trying to destroy? Both sides, John and the agent sent to punish him, they want the same thing on a broad level. The end of the outlaw, right? John approaches it by reforming and giving Jack a future where he can contribute to society and not be in danger. The agents on the other side just want to take down the remaining outlaws, like John, to put as definitive of an end to the outlaw age as possible. Yet, in doing so, they showed Jack that what we were discussing a minute ago is true. The same action can be good or bad depending on who does it. It just depends on your perspective. And from Jack's perspective, they killed his father who was trying to make up for his past. So of course he's going to seek revenge.
I like the way you're going with this because I didn't even consider this. And it makes sense because Jack's existence as an outlaw is the whole reason why we saw the whole rebels in Mexico, is where you have a government organization where it's pretty much dictatorship. You're going to get people who push against that, and that is what Jack is. That is what Jack is doing.
And that's why I need more Jack. Because this game sets him up to have to make a huge decision, right? To be or not to be an outlaw. And we see him, from my interpretation, starting to lean towards the way of the outlaw at the end of the game. But I don't think that he would do so without guilt. So I need more. Because we see hints that Jack is drawn to the allure of the outlaw romanticized. One quote describing the book he's reading seems to have a direct impact on his future. He says, describing the book to John, it's about how this man, this brave man, hunts the man who killed his father. So that's exactly what Jack ends up doing, right? So we see him kind of falling into the allure of that. On the other hand, we know that this is not the life that John would want for Jack. He even says, I don't want him to become a man like me, in part 3. And how sad, but also kind of cool that Jack essentially becomes him at the end of the game. I love the idea that Jack kills Ross. He gets the revenge and the redemption for his father, and he stops at that. Does not continue on to be an outlaw, the man John tried and fought so hard for him to not become. But I also really like the idea of the government sort of breeding outlaws based on their actions. Because as Dutch said, they'll find another monster. They have to, because they have to justify their wages. They don't care if they're breeding outlaws.
I don't disagree with Dutch. I think he has a point. Which makes it kind of blend into the next topic about who we think is going to be the main character. I kind of want to jump into it because it has to do with Jack.
Yeah. It's topic 5.
Yeah, okay.
RDR2, Kathy's predictions.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Exactly. So with everything you said about Jack, I kind of like the idea of it. Jack immediately stops there. I feel like it's only right for it to be Jack. Mm-hmm. I can also see that because he already fulfilled his revenge, there's no need for him to continue this way. I would love to see him settle down, range life, be happy, and not be involved, but it's either that or it's a completely new plot, new location, new stuff, new characters. Maybe we'll get some cameos from old people like Bonnie or the sheriff or the strange man. Mm-hmm. It's either A, it's Jack, or B, new character and new plot, which I'm cheating because I'm doing both.
Yeah. I mean, the Jack options, I love and hate both of them because there's something so satisfying about him being like, you betrayed my father, I'm going to betray you and be an outlaw. And just kind of what we wanted John to do at times, just let loose. Mm-hmm. But it also really sullies John's memory and makes his death feel fall flat and feel pointless. Mm-hmm. But that's why a sequel with him as the protagonist would be so compelling, because we'd see him, that's the big choice of the game, is do I be an outlaw or do I not be an outlaw? And we see him struggle with both sides of that. As far as it being something completely different, I mean, these are the questions that we were all asking, Kathy. So
how long did you guys have to guess for?
8 years.
Are you going to tell me right now? Or
I'm debating on if we should watch the trailer or not.
I'm kind of open to that.
I cannot tell you how many times I watched this trailer. People were like scouring every millisecond. People were analyzing the hat shapes, trying to match them to characters we know. It was nuts. So yeah, we'll watch the announcement trailer because it doesn't give away any of these questions you're asking. And
Okay.
I want you to be surprised when we start the game. Because
Okay.
I'm gonna need your reactions
Okay.
when we start.
Listen to me. When the time comes, you gotta run and don't look back. This is over.
Gives you almost nothing, right?
But wait, wasn't John saying that when the time comes you have to run?
Yes, I had. Let me pull it up.
Okay.
I'm so glad you noticed that.
I mean, preparing for this, I was going through stuff, and I'm pretty sure he said that to Jack to tell him to take Abigail away.
Yep.
It's a different voice.
Yeah. So he says to Jack, keep riding and don't look back. And then in this trailer, we hear, you gotta run and don't look back.
Okay, so it's kind of different, but same meaning.
Ugh, that line is forever stuck in my head. That's gonna be when I'm on my deathbed, senile. You're gonna hear, you gotta run and don't look back. And everyone's gonna be like, the fuck is she talking about? Anyway, should we move on to topic 6?
Yeah, okay. KFC, Kathy's favorite character.
Mm-hmm.
We'll reach out to KFC when we do it.
Sometime before they go out of business.
Yes, hopefully. So, one of the best parts is stale biscuit. So I'm just going to make you guess. I'm not going to list out the characters this time. So, who do you think is my stale biscuit?
There's a lot of contenders here.
Yeah.
I feel like the most stale, not necessarily like you hate him, is Irish.
Ooh.
Because he's kind of annoying and he doesn't want to help, but he's also not like purposefully trying to mess things up. He's just an idiot.
I actually forgot about Irish. He's pretty darn stale. I get that, but I guess for me, maybe it's disproportional to this game. Again, pacing issue. But I said the professor. He's not malicious, but he's just like drugged up, high, and absolutely ignorant due to being overprivileged with an overly inflated ego that leaves no room for a brain with common sense. He's not malicious, but he's stale biscuit.
Yeah, a bit of a product of his time.
And the fact that he's very pushy with trying to make John do drugs with him.
There's enough for 2 and then shoots all of it into his arm. Buddy.
Calm down.
How is he alive is my question.
Yeah. Anyways, point 2 for my post-game KFC. Do you want to take a stab at it? I want to make you guess all of these.
Well, because see, I want to say John, but I also feel like you might try to throw something at me. I think Bonnie's in the running. Maybe Abigail. Maybe the Marshal. Because I know you have a few problems with John. So I think I'm going to say Bonnie.
Close, it's Abigail. I mean,
Damn.
it's both a female. I think because with Abigail, we see a bit more. I like how she's like, no BS, can take a joke. She knew Bonnie was crushing on John, but she's still able to handle a joke. But what makes her my KFC is the fact that she went from being a prostitute and getting talked down, being just so minimized in a gang life where it's predominantly men, and then making it out to the other side, being successful, being able to defend herself and her son, and on top of all that, be able to just be be real with John, saying that if you're back with Dutch and Bill, don't be here, leave. And I love her for that. Like the transformation that her character arc goes through without us having any clue, but seeing it, knowing that she's made it this far. I think that's why she's my KFC.
She's a bit of an acquired taste, and I think if you don't consider her perspective and her background, you could dislike her a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But once you consider those things, it completely flips, and you're like, she's great. Like,
Mm-hmm.
she doesn't take crap, and she's been through a lot, and make the best out of it.
It's a post-game Kentucky Scorcher who I think is hot, but doesn't necessarily have to do with their personality, or so we think.
I feel like it should be John, but I also think you might have mentioned something about the Marshal at some point. I'm trying to think if there's any other good options. Like maybe Fordham. I think I'm going to go Fordham.
I'm glad you didn't say John. I mean, it would have been John until he took his hat off, and then it was not John.
The hat head completely is a turnoff.
Yeah, it is. And here's where I have to ask everyone to no judgment, but it's Dutch.
No, I get it. Everyone will get it.
Yeah.
Don't worry. He's an eloquent speaker. He's very confident.
Mm-hmm.
He's got an air about him. Although those things you cannot see through a picture, so maybe I do need to question you just a little bit.
Well, yes, it's the shoulders.
Okay.
Anyways, yeah. So which us saying that it has something to do with personality means we need to bring up blind KS.
So let's see what you said. What was your blind pick? Number 1 is John. You said, definitely someone who goes to war and gets the job done. Your next note is perhaps my favorite. And I haven't even read the rest, but I just know I love your next note. Number 2 is Bill. And you said, possibly the father of number 1.
I mean, I'm kind of accurate on that.
Not as accurate as you think you are. Number 3 is Javier. You said probably one of the natives or Aztecs that migrated to the Wild West. We'll let you have it.
Yeah.
Number 4 is DeSanta. You said, I wouldn't be shocked if he had a generic name like John Smith. Incorrect. 5 is Landon Ricketts. Clint Eastwood vibes. And you left it at that. Moving on to number 6, who is Professor McDougal. He might be a waiter or a busboy, ... question mark. Why do you always think someone's a waiter? Like every game.
Really?
There's one character you think is a waiter.
I don't think I'm saying that many people are waiters.
This is not the first time. Number 7 is the Marshal. You said, I don't know if I like that sly grin on his face. Fair enough. Number 8 is Ross. You said, the lawyer of some rich person trying to take the land from the natives. 9 is Fordham, another lawyer or rich person trying to take the land from poor people. 10 is Abraham. You said, Spanish/Wild West version of Robin Hood, i.e. Antonio Banderas vibes. Probably fights with a sword.
I'm just being straight up racist.
But you're not white, so it's okay. Number 11 is Dutch. You said, I thought he was shirtless because of the nude colored shirt. LOL. 12 is Nastas. Pretty confident to say he's one of the Native Americans in this game. Correct. 13 is Irish. I gave you a lot of options this time. Yeah. Probably has alcohol issues. Right on the money with that one. And then we have Allende. Villain look. Wants to conquer all the land and towns to add to his kingdom, even if it means genocide, which he wouldn't care about.
Pretty accurate.
Okay. Do you want to know what you picked?
Yeah.
Kathy's blind Kentucky Scorcher. Number 1. I like the scruff, and he seems like he doesn't mind getting his hands dirty. That's drawn. But then you followed it up to say, I also have to give credit to number 5, that's Landon Ricketts, because even though he isn't my blind KS, he looks like the Western version of Sarah from Y0. I have to say I don't see it, Kathy.
I don't see it either now that I know more about it, but I don't know what Kathy was thinking when I put those in.
But hey, you picked John.
I picked well.
Good pick.
But I guess, what would your KS be, John?
I can't not pick John. I cannot return to a time when I did not know John as a character.
Yeah. I guess your LFC has to be John too then. Pretty
Yeah.
safe to say.
I like the Marshal
Mm-hmm.
as a character, but he's no John.
Mm-hmm.
You know? There's just something about a man trying to better himself.
Yeah.
That we all like, right?
Yeah. I do have to say, though, for this game, I added a trash category. I want to share with you who 4 different people made it into the trash category. And when we say trash, it's just... What are you doing?
I'm dunking DeSanta into the trash preemptively.
Yes. Trash. Straight up. I don't know if we need to go too deep into it. Just...
Should I try to guess all 4?
Oh, yeah. You should try for all 4. Yeah.
Or do you want to finish your DeSanta first?
Oh,
Your DeSanta notes?
DeSanta, a lot of issues on top of betraying John and just causing us so much unnecessary gameplay. So that's my issue. So that's okay. You got DeSanta.
Reyes.
Just cheating on Louisa itself is enough. Jail, straight to jail.
Straight to jail.
Yeah.
Ooh, this is where it gets a little trickier because I have multiple ones. I'll go ahead and say Ross.
Yeah.
Nice.
He's the reason why John's dead.
Simple. Allende.
Yeah.
Nice.
Ding, ding, ding. You got all 4. He forced himself on the women Sorry, I couldn't say it. He pretty much raped the females in this game, so we'll leave it at that. But who else would you put in the trash category? I'm missing someone, aren't I?
Deeks. Norman Deeks.
Oh yeah.
And anyone who had a hand in Bonnie being hurt in any way. 4 for 4.
4 for 4.
4 for 4.
4 for 4 for.
Why is that so hard to say?
We're losing it. Okay.
With that,
Okay.
should we move on to topic 7?
Yes. Okay. Let's see if I can get 3 for 3. I doubt it. Don't hold your breath.
So topic 7 is final counts or stats. I'll let you know that there's 3 stats this time.
The first one is how many times you used the Gatling gun.
God, no, but too many.
Yeah. Dang it.
Hate that thing. Good guess, though.
How many cows we've seen.
No. It's not how many cows.
Or courses.
No animals.
Dude, what kind of stats are you choosing this game?
Some of them you've seen before.
I was going to say the bird one, but I think that's too much PTSD on you. How many times, like, John's rolling his eyes? Or he coughs? Or
No.
smokes?
I'm going to give you one more guess.
How many times he smokes? Or someone smokes?
Yeah, there's one.
Okay.
Cigarettes smoked.
I feel like there's a lot in this game, but at the same time, probably not as much as Big B's. Let's do 26.
15 cigarettes.
Not too far
And
off.
3 cigars. There's 2 more stats, but you might be out of guesses.
I think you are limiting me on how many guesses, but I also don't know how many I'm going to get right.
We have another repeat. Pedestrian dives.
Oh. Pedestrian pancakes.
No PPs, just PDs. How many times did someone dive out of my way?
That was such a good one. I should have known that. I feel like 5 is too less, but off the top of my head, let's do 8 or 11. Let's do 8.
Which one? Well, they're both wrong.
They're both wrong. Okay, 5?
4.
I need to stop guessing.
The final stat. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Drunk stumbles.
Oh. Okay, we knew there's at least 2, probably 3. I'd say 4 again.
3.
Oh, dang it. I really need to
Close.
just go with my first guess.
I know.
Dude, I'm frustrated about
That might have been your worst performance on the stats.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
Anyways,
Do you have any closing thoughts on Red Dead Redemption, or should we close out the episode?
I think we should close out the episode. I'm excited to see what RDR2 brings.
I'm so excited to talk about that game.
I know you are. You've been excited about this game since we even started this podcast.
I know, and I waited until I'm like, I need to make sure that we're kind of good at this before we take on this game.
Yeah.
So hopefully we're good.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. I had a fun time analyzing this game. Definitely, like always, picked up on things, had realizations that I have not had before.
I'm glad. And that's the whole purpose of this podcast, is for you to see things in my eyes and pick up things you haven't seen before.
Exactly. And hopefully it's the same for everyone else.
Yep.
Well, new game next week. Gameplay will be up tomorrow. That'll kind of spoil the surprise, but you can still send us your guess. We'll have a quote. Message us on Instagram, contact us through our website, email us. It's all in the episode description. You'll win something if you get it right. Yeah, that's kind of it. Subscribe to our YouTube channel so we can hit 100.
We can finally change our username.
Please.
Perfect. Audacity on 1, 3, 2, 1.
Thank you for listening, and don't forget to send in any questions, comments, or game suggestions. You can find all our contact info on our website, replayreviewspod.com, or contact us directly through our site.
Did we completely miss something? Are we way off the mark? Or you just want us to take a deeper look at anything from the game? We'll tackle any topics you all want to hear in our season wrap-up episode.
We also have a Reddit where we discuss anything we're curious about. Go take a look and let us know what you're thinking. Think you can guess which game is up next based on this obscure quote?
So, you're the new cleaning lady, huh?
Message us on Instagram or contact us through our website to see if you're right. Our theme music is Condemned by Eggy Toast. They'll play you out, and we'll be back next week with a new game.